All right, y'all, I have a very special episode for you today. This is part one of a two-part series where I interview Marc Rivera, who is one of my full-time employees. Marc is in his early 20s, and in part one, we talk about all sorts of good things, such as why he didn't go to college, how he tripled his income in the last 12 months, what he suggests if you're in your early 20s and you want to do the same, how to deal with fear and uncertainty, and how his focus is what determines his outcomes. And we talk about all sorts of other things. If you're in your 20s, I think you'll really enjoy it. If you're a business owner looking to hire someone that's growth-oriented, I think you'll get value. And if you're none of those things, I still think you'll get value just to hear how it is that he thinks. So enjoy. All right, what is going on, you guys? Today's podcast is special. And as most of you know, all of my episodes thus far have just been me shouting into the camera and Mike myself. But today I have my first guest on the show, and I could not be more thrilled about who is the guest. And he's here with me from Fort Worth. Came a long way, and I'm very excited that he's the first guest that I've had. But today I have with me Marc Rivera. Marc works with me full-time in the business. He's one of my two full-time employees that we currently have, and he serves in a sales role. And why am I so thrilled to have him on for you guys? Well, first, he's an amazing human being, and he's also strikingly good-looking. So for those of you that are watching on video, we'll have some visual appeal for you. But two, Marc tripled his income in the past 12 months. And I thought it'd be really cool for you to hear just how exactly he did that. And he's in his early 20s. And so the interview will likely resonate with that type of audience. I know there's a few of you out there listening. But three, I also think there are entrepreneurs like me who are looking for people like Marc on their team. And they want to know, how can I attract talent like Marc? And we're going to hear directly from him on how we can do that. And Marc's got a cool story and a unique one. He decided after high school not to go a traditional college route, which we're going to talk about. And he did a few things for a few years and then came into my funnel when I needed to get someone on my team. And here we are. But he's been with me nearly a year and a half and is personally responsible, or has a personal hand in more than $800,000 of our business's revenue last year, which I think is absolutely incredible. And he's smiling just because the impact that he's had on the business in the past 12 months has been really cool. But he's accomplished some really, really cool things since being on board. And so, Marc Rivera, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is really, really cool, and I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We are excited to have you. So, Marc, what would you suggest other 25-year-olds should do if they're not quite happy where they are in their life with the current situation, whether it's work or at home, and they're not quite sure what to do next? What would you have to say for some early 20-year-olds out there?
I think the best thing to do is, if you're unhappy and you're 25 and you don't know what to do, I think the first question you're probably going to have to ask yourself is, what am I willing to do next? You know, like, what am I willing to put myself through? If you're not able to ask that, then you're going to stay in the same spot. So I think you have to be willing to do something that you're uncomfortable doing, and just kind of approach it with like this blind, I call it like this blind belief, where you find something that you can see yourself doing for the next 5 to 10 years or 10 to 20 years, and you look at the end result of it, and you just see, okay, they can do it, I can do it, and just go. And everything that happens from then and there, it's just focusing on what's the next skill set I need to learn, what's the next thing that I can do, and you don't know what's going to happen when you get the end of that first year if you just do it. And you're like, oh, I achieved that. I didn't really, didn't think about it that much. And I think that would probably be one of the biggest things, is just find something that you can do, that you really can see yourself in the next 10 years. and then just start and have like this blind belief, no expectation of yourself other than I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I see the end result, and that's going to be me. And I'm just going to try to put myself in those positions that can get me there.
I love that. Can you give some people context? So you graduated high school, and then give a very quick overview from 18 to 25, or you're actually 24, about to turn 25, but you came to me when you were 23, 23. So give people some context on what happened there, because everything you're saying is great, and I want the listeners to know, like, where is that coming from?
Yeah. So 18, I had met my wife already at the time we were dating. And, she plays the biggest role in who I am today, and just what's the next thing I need to do, and her family. And so from 18, I took a job from her dad, Justin, who's been my biggest mentor. And I worked at the gym there. I love fitness. Fitness is everything. Fitness was the first thing that I really fell in love with, and I became dedicated to. So I became a trainer at one of his gyms, and that really taught me a lot there in itself. It taught me a lot about how to communicate with people and how to try to connect with them. And so after that, I went over to Colorado because we were going to go ahead and move to Colorado to start a ministry. And this is where I took my walk with God very serious. And I wanted to investigate, okay, what does it mean to have a relationship with God? And so if I call myself a Christian, what does that really look like? There needs to have a change in the way I personally pursue. It's not just from hearing what people are saying, but it's now the action of, okay, let me personally meet you, God. And then so I moved over to Colorado, and my life just rapidly started to change. My character started to change for the better. Learning what it really meant to be a man and trying to take care of a household. I really saw that through Justin and their family of like, whoa, this is what it means to really take care and to listen to people. And so from 19, and then like literally a couple months later, as a result of that, a result of giving my life to Christ and learning and being around, Reese and her family, I immediately knew this was someone I wanted to be with. And so like 3 months later, proposed. A month later, got married. And now I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I was kind of job hopping from like working at Sam's. Then I moved to South Carolina. I worked at a warehouse there. And then I moved to Texas, back to Texas with my wife. And then from there, I worked at Outback. And so those were really like the 3 jobs I had. But my wife has always been she was the grinder. She was the one who was working like 2 jobs, working at Ulta and then working at a salon. And so I had a slow start, and she was always the go-getter. And I just naturally kind of had that personality as I'm super chill, I'm super laid back. So I don't kind of, it's easy for me to get like complacent. And so I'm super optimistic, and I try to look for, okay, where's the opportunity for the good? Where's the opportunity to grow? Where's the light? And my wife is the more logical. So if you want to try to explain things to her, you have to try to view it at a logical point of view. She's amazing. But so that's kind of like in terms of jobs. And then at one point I was like, okay, I need to step up. I'm called to be there's a certain point that I believe how I need to be as a role, and like I'm more so like if my wife wants to work, awesome. If she wants to be the provide for us, and I'm like cool, take care of me. But then it got to the point to where she's just putting so much effort and so much work, and she's getting exhausted, and I'm like, I need to step up. So I need to be more of like. More of a provider, not only because I do really good like emotionally, but I wanted to kind of step up financially and spiritually to just ease in the burden and also be able to help provide for the future of having kids. And so then I just kind of explored, and in our family, it's always been like, oh, we want to do real estate, we want to work together, we want to do all these things. And so I've slowly was learning that. And then finally, there was an opportunity for me to do that, and that's where Justin kind of reached out to me and said, "Hey, this might be an opportunity for you. It's going to be difficult. You might have to do part-time. I don't know what this is, but this is a really good opportunity for you to learn a skill set." And that's when I met Ryan. And I was everything that kind of came, kind of talking about that blind belief. I had the vision. He told me his point of view. And what was very important to me was that he also had good morals and good intention, especially going into this industry. I wanted to make sure that they're going to put the people first. So that's what I saw, and I saw it, and I believed it. And so I was just like, whatever, that's it. Like, I'm sold out. So this is what I'm going to do, and whatever happens, I'm just going to learn from it. And so that's kind of a long, quick overview.
Love that. So much to unpack there, and I think, high level for the audience, Reese is Marc's wife. So, Marc, you got married at 19, yes, which is a much less conventional path, I think, especially these days, maybe more common in the 50s and the 60s. Here we are, 75 years later, and most people are getting married much later. And a path where you didn't go to college and pursued several different things. Can you talk for a second about the decision not to go to college? Mm-hmm. Was that a confident decision? Were you worried about what people might think if you didn't go? Walk me through how that played out for you.
Yeah. So school was never my thing. School was kind of hard for me. And it wasn't that I wasn't capable of doing it. It's just I had the lack of effort in doing something that I didn't have a deep desire for. And so that was kind of the big thing for me. So school wasn't good. I kind of just didn't do my homework, but when I did do it, like, it was fine. So it put me behind. So college was a cool idea, but I never thought, I'm going to go to college. Thought of doing more school was just like gross. Yuck. Plus, if I would have gone to college, I don't think it would have been good for me. I would have been a party animal, and I probably would have just ended up wasting money. So that was kind of the thing. I thought maybe I would do a tech school, or become like a bodybuilder, or become, something like that. So going into college wasn't really felt like a reality to me. Maybe I always thought, sales might be something I would do later, or real estate might be something I would do later.
Cool. So it's not something you actually struggled with. There was never a time where you're like, I'm worried about what people might think because I don't go to college.
No, not really. Not
cool.
really.
And is that a trait that you have always historically espoused, which is the trait of not really caring what people think, or is that something that you had to learn? Because I feel like a lot of people in their early 20s, that is something, you're definitely in the minority there. And I think a lot of people, especially young people, go to college because they're worried about what people might think if they do not go to college. So is that a trait that is just natural to you, or is that something that you had to learn and apply? I
think I just didn't, the only people that affects me, I care, is the people extremely close to me. Okay. And at that time, I don't think I had a lot of, I had friends and stuff, but I didn't have a lot that I was like, oh, like, I don't care what you think. Because I was at a rebellious point at that point where because I wasn't doing great at school, because I wasn't doing these things, I'm grounded most of the time. And so I'm in my room. So that kind of created, like, creativity in my head. Like, what can I do to keep myself occupied? Oh, I don't care if you do this to me. I don't care if you do. So I think just naturally, I've always been someone who is, I'm going to do what I want to do, regardless of what anyone tells me. And so because of that, if I didn't, like, I don't want to go to college, that's fine. So cool. Like, okay, you're going to go to college. And that's not the only way.
So you didn't have parents saying, Mark, like, I really need you to go to college.
Oh, no, I did.
You did?
My mom really wanted me to go to college. Actually, you know what? I take that back. She wanted me to go to college. She wanted me to put effort. But at the same time, she was like, if you want to go to tech, like a technical school, that's fine too. Okay. I think she just wanted me to do. So my parents were divorced, and so I lived in Washington, and I lived in Washington for about 6 years, and I would go back and forth from my dad. So it was split there. So a lot of the time when I reference my mom, it's because I lived with her the most. But yeah, I think they just wanted me to do something, honestly. Got it. So I take that back. Yeah.
One thing that you and I talk about all the time is one of the biggest reasons I think we're a very good fit for each other is we have similar values. And my company's values have changed since inception of the business. And, my wife and I even had a 2-hour coffee date where we kind of honed in some of our company's values. But we've landed on competitive excellence, relentless growth, and speed is king as the values that are in our business. If you had to pick the one value in your own words that exemplifies you most, what would you say that value is, and where did it come from?
So it doesn't have to be any like one of those. I thought about this earlier, and I think my ability to communicate and connect. Now, I know I've talked to you I feel like communication is kind of a lacking point, but I'm also an extremist when it comes to evaluating myself. But I think my natural ability to try to have a conversation with someone and like be giddy and connect, I think that is one of my biggest skill sets, because then it puts people's guard down and we can have a genuine conversation. And I think with anything, that is the most important with work or business or sales, is how can I connect with this person? How can I read them? So also I have a really good emotional intelligence, I think. So I'm able to like see someone, if I say something that affects them negatively or tone or shift, I typically can pick up on that and then adjust.
And so you are very skilled at that, and I think that's why you're in the sales industry. What about not necessarily a skill set, but a value that's important to you? If you had to pick one value that's most important to you, honesty, an example, integrity, growth, what value would you say defines you most, or is a value that you inherently is very important to you?
Okay. I think for me, like respect. I guess kind of that would kind of go into like integrity category, of like, I sometimes will hurt my own feelings talking to people. Like I can see like, oh, I didn't mean it for that to come off that way. And so for my biggest thing is I want to make sure that whatever I'm communicating to someone, that they feel respected, because that's important to me. I don't like it when someone talks to me in a way that makes you see me as little than you, and I'm like, no, like that's not gonna happen. And if it is, then okay, cool, I'm gonna shut down and we can change the way that the energy is or the conversation is. So I think my thing is, I guess integrity. Like I want to make sure that I'm an honorable man. Like that's important to me. Like I want to do the right thing, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Genuinely, like you can never like, who knows what'll hurt someone's feelings, but I think I care. Like I think that's one a big thing about me. I don't know if I answered that.
What's funny about what you said too is, for context for the listeners on what Marc does, we run a direct seller real estate business. So people who want to sell their homes, they call in, and we have occasionally had clients who haven't portrayed the most respect to Marc, and we've worked on how Marc responds back in those situations. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think in the beginning, in the first few times that happened, there was a little bit of a defense mechanism that's come up, and I think you've evolved and be able to handle that well. And I think for anyone who's trying to work on a sales skill set, what's most important is to realize that the person who's calling in, and if you're trying to sell anything, any emotion that they reflect has nothing to do with you. But in order for us in a sales capacity to actually serve a prospect, we have to really lean in, and how are they feeling? What are they thinking? So can you talk a little bit about how you have evolved from if someone doesn't show you the respect that you feel might be natural and a human connection, like how you've kind of been able to change that?
Yeah, I think like when I first would go on the phones and dial, and there was someone that they're just coming off aggressive, and rightfully so. I'm calling them and asking them a whole bunch of questions. And like, just give me a number. Was that something I took actually from Sam's, working at Sam's and working in when people would go through the line.
Sam's Club?
Yeah, Sam's Club.
Okay.
We're going through the line, and I'm checking having to beep everything because we want to make sure they're not stealing anything. And so some people would get annoyed. It's like, here's my receipt, or I'm not stealing anything. So sometimes they'll come up with something smart, or it's just little. And so something that I picked from there was, in order for me to change someone's energy, I actually don't take anything personal. Like when I say like respect, I mean like someone I'm trying to connect with. Like I'll just adjust and like, oh, okay, this is your personality. So me matching someone who is aggressive with something that's the opposite, which is calm. And so that's how I try to approach it, especially also doing with like Outback. People get upset. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we were super busy. I was trying my hardest to kind of move and maneuver everything to get you your appetizers out as quickly as possible. Is there anything else I can do for you? Would you like me to get my manager? And then all of a sudden they're like, I'm sorry. I'm just a little bit irritated. We were in X, Y, and Z, and they start. So I think countering their energy with the opposite. So if they're aggressive, then I'm going to be really calm. And I'm just not going to take it personally. Whatever. Okay. That's just the way you are communicating to me at the moment. You don't know me. I don't know you. And I don't know what you came in here with. So I'm just going to be calm. And I'm going to be a master of how I react to things rather than let somebody else dictate how I'm going to react.
Cool. Love it. Marc, you more than tripled your income in the last 12 months. And if there is someone out there listening in their early 20s and they want to do the same thing, what advice would you give them?
I would say real estate. I would say go. If it's not real estate, then obviously find something that you're passionate about. And then, like I said, just research the win results, research what prevents them from winning, and just go and do it. I think that's the big thing that I've learned, that when I'm watching someone like an Andy Elliott or an Alex Hormozi or a Grant Cardone, these people, or anyone who has accumulated a success or somewhere, like they're a master at something, how can I get there? I'll look at the end result of them, of where they're at right now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to be like that right now. And what I've learned is no. And I think that's why a lot of people don't start, is because they're trying to think about it and they get overwhelmed, like, oh, there's no way. There's so much change I have to do.
Seems intimidating.
Exactly. They don't think about when they tell their testimony, where they actually came from. And so knowing that that's the scope of, that's the end result, let me just work on what are the little things I can do now that they did to win, and duplicate that and just keep going. So, one, real estate is what I would say, because you can have all the kinds of freedom that you want. At the same time, you can learn a skill set that can provide any type of lifestyle that you want. There is no cap to it. And so I think that's probably what I would say.
Cool. So find something you love doing. Do a whole bunch of it.
Yep.
Look at the people who have had some success, and don't look at what they're doing now, but look at what was their journey and how they got there, and then go put in that type of volume.
And then also surround influence. Influence is a big thing. Surround yourself with that environment. Be in it. Don't seclude yourself. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that is the single thing that's going to keep you or bring you to success. Is that uncomfortability. So embrace it, get used to it, love it, because that is what's going to bring you success and get you to wherever you want to go.
What message would you have for the young 20-year-olds who prioritize wanting to have a stable job and make 50 to 60K right out of school versus the route that you chose, which was much less guaranteed or much less certain, right? And for the listeners, some context, Marc makes a small monthly stipend, but basically the majority of his income comes from he eats what he kills, right? He eats what he kills. And what message would you have for people who are afraid to take on an eat what you kill type of job because there is less certainty, there's less, quote, security? How did you embrace that? And what would you communicate to people in their 20s who are kind of like, yeah, I kind of want something safe that I'm going to make $60K a year?
Well, if that's what you want, then you achieved it there, And so, but if you want, there's an inclination in you that you want more, I would say that's, like I said, I am sky's the limit type of person. I am whatever you believe you can achieve. And so I would say break out. Break out of the norm. I think it's too much that we see, like, you have to live this way. And people live in a cycle of, like one of my brothers is that way. Like, he is, I need to have this before I do this. Like, I need to have X amount before I get married, before I want to have kids. I need to have a job in order that's going to bring me this amount before. But then now you look at me. First thing I do is I get married, and I don't really have a job. And, we kind of gone through ups and downs, whatever. And then, I don't have a career yet for the first 4 years of our marriage. And then I find it. And then I'm always constantly moving nonstop. And so it looks like there's no stability. What are you doing? But I have an amazing, amazing marriage with my wife. I have found a career, and everything in my life, there's nothing that's ever happened that's bad. Like, all of my risks that I've taken, I've gained significantly from them. And so I think it's just playing it safe only gets you stagnant.
And for you, from what I know about you that the audience doesn't, you perceive risk, I think, differently than most do.
Yeah.
Where you perceive risk as like, why not? I'm going to go jump on it. Most people perceive risk as, oh, that's risky. Why would I do that if I can go get a secure $60,000 job? Can you talk about, like, was that something that was always innate inside of you, the ability to take on risk without fear? Or was that something that you had to teach yourself? Did somebody else instill that upon you? Knowing that you were probably in a minority there, right? Say maybe in the 10%, and 90% of the people are the reverse. What message would you give the 90% who are struggling with having fear doing that? They know down deep that they want something bigger, but they're scared due to the uncertainty that comes with it.
Absolutely. I think I've always had it. I've always had this belief system in me. I think it probably came from my dad. My dad was big on, like, you can like there's nothing you can't do. Just do it. Like anything you want to do, just do it. Because he came from like, it's funny when I say he came from Puerto Rico because it's like, you know, a part of the U.S., just not a state. But he came over, and him and my mom and didn't know English or nothing, and they just started to figure it out. And when you try to figure it out, you kind of just, there's nothing that you can lose, really. You know what I mean? Like, you're just always constantly in pursuit. And so he had to learn English. They had to learn English, and then he had to learn, and he wanted to work for Microsoft. So he was just reading books on coding. And then now fast forward to now, he's been in Microsoft for like almost 25 years, I want to say, and that's rare to have. So he can do like, there's like, the way he described it to me, he could do like 3 different like skills, or like the skills, like typically there's like, you have a specific skill set in this when it comes to like, I guess, kind of coding. Trust me, I don't know what I'm talking about. I could be saying this wrong. But basically he accumulated a multitude of skills to where he's really like singled himself out. Like, he works a part of a team, but he's basically a boss because of how much skills he acquired.
And so it sounds like he has had a tremendous influence on your ability to have a belief system in yourself enough to where taking risk doesn't feel as, quote, risky as it might for the rest of the population.
Absolutely. And I've only focused on that. I've never really focused on the, well, what would happen part, you know?
Interesting.
And so I just focus on, look at the reward. Yeah, but like, what good is it going to be if I'm going to dwell on the negatives? Like, what good? It's going to cause me stress, and it's going to cause me prevention. Now, I think it's smart to be aware, but I think awareness is different. It gives you 2 options. Like, it gives you the ability to let it affect you, or now I'm aware of that. Now I can look for that and look for the signs and avoid it.